With Doubtnut, get instant video solutions to all your maths, physics, chemistry, and biology doubts. Just click the image of the question, crop the question, and get instant video solution. Download Doubtnut app today.
If we talk about this question, in this question we are asked that what are the major parts of the brain, mention the functions of different parts, right? So if we talk about the brain, right, so brain is divided into three regions, right? Brain is basically divided into three regions. The first part is basically known as the forebrain, right? The middle part of the brain is basically known as the midbrain, right? And the last part of the brain, the back part of the brain, is basically known as the hindbrain, right? That's basically known as the hindbrain. Now if we discuss the various parts of the forebrain, so the first part of the forebrain is basically the cerebrum, right? That's the cerebrum. So cerebrum is the main thinking part of the brain, right? All the thinking process, right? All the thinking process takes place, right, takes part in the cerebrum. Apart from the cerebrum, the next part of the brain is basically the cerebral hemisphere, right? That's the cerebral hemisphere, right? So the function of the cerebral hemisphere is basically it is the site of intelligence and voluntary actions, right? It is a site of the intelligence and the voluntary actions, right? Apart from this, the next part of the forebrain is basically the olfactory lobes, right? The other parts of the brain are the olfactory lobes, right? So the olfactory lobes, these are the centers of the smell, right? These are basically associated with the sensation of the smell, right? Then the next part we have is the diencephalon, right? It's diencephalon, right? So the function of the diencephalon is basically that it has centers of hunger, right? It has centers, right? It has centers for hunger, thirst, etc., right? Center of thirst, hunger, etc. And apart from this, the last part of the forebrain is basically the motor areas, right? Motor areas, right? Where so these areas, they basically instruct, right? These areas, they basically instruct the muscles to do, right? Muscles to do various jobs, right? Various types of jobs, right? Various types of jobs. So these are the various parts of the forebrain. Now we will discuss the various parts of the midbrain, right? So the midbrain consists of basically two main parts. That's the tectum, right? So the function of the tectum is to control the reflex movements, right? Whatever reflex movements that occur, right, in our body is all controlled by the tectum, right? So the reflex movements that are taken place by our neck, right, by our neck, they all are controlled in response to visual and auditory stimuli, right? In response to visual and auditory stimuli, whatever reflex movements that takes place in our body, right, that's basically known as the that's basically carried out by the tectum. Now the next part of the midbrain is basically the cerebral peduncle, right? Is the cerebral peduncle, right? So basically we talk about the cerebral peduncle. Its function is to control the reflex movements of eye, right? They basically control the reflex movement, right? They basically control the reflex movement of the eye, head, right? Head and the trunk. In response to trunk, right? The movement of eye muscles, right? So they basically carry out the function of controlling the reflex movements of the eye muscle, right? Eye muscle. Apart from this, the changes in the pupil size, right? Whatever changes has to happen in the pupil size and the shape of the eyelids, that's all regulated by the cerebral peduncle, right? Now if we talk about the hindbrain, so the very first part of the hindbrain is the pons, right? The first part of the hindbrain is pons, and its function is basically to regulate the respiration, right? It regulates respiration in our body. Apart from this, it also relays information between cerebellum and the cerebellum. Whatever information is to pass on is passed on via bonds through cerebellum, right? Cerebellum and cerebrum, right? And cerebrum, right? Now the next part of the hindbrain is basically the cerebellum, right? So cerebellum is the function of the cerebellum is basically to maintain the posture and balance, right? It is involved in maintaining the posture and balance of our body. It enables us to make precise and accurate movements, right? And the last part that we have is basically the medulla, right? The last part of our brain that is present in the hindbrain is basically the medulla, and its function is to control all the involuntary actions, right? It basically control all the involuntary actions such as salivation, vomiting, breathing, right? It is a controlling center for reflexes such as swallowing, coughing, vomiting, etc., which are the involuntary actions, right? So these are the major parts of the brain with their functions, right?
For class 6 to 12, IIT JEE and NEET level. Trusted by more than 5 crore students. Download Doubtnut app today.